Shalom, friends. Welcome to another Shear in Tanya, written by the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Yadi, 1745 to 1810. And we are currently on chapter 14. I'm Eliyahu Shear from Chesed Ve'emet, and my site can be found on www.lovingkindness.co. So we're dealing with a crucial part of the Tanya at this point in time. We're discussing the Beinoni, and the Beinoni is the average person, and the essence of Tanya is addressed to this average person. Now the thing is that the Beinoni is very much like a Tzaddik, and we're not going to go through the whole story again. Please listen to the previous Shiurim. But where we left off last week is that the Beinoni might find himself in a strange position. He might think that because he is a Beinoni, and since it is that the one difference that he has next to the Tzaddik is that he doesn't despise evil, that perhaps it should be that the Beinoni should live a life as a Beinoni, never striving to accomplish much more than being a Beinoni. But the Alter Rebbe said to us at the end of chapter 14, where we're at the moment, that even so, that the Beinoni can never really become a tzaddik, because a tzaddik is a person who has this ahava b'ta'anugim, he has a love of delights, which it seems to be that the average person is unable to attain, because it is a gift from Hashem, and therefore the Beinoni might think to himself that he shouldn't strive any further. Should he even think about becoming a tzaddik? And at the end of chapter 14, the Alter Rebbe says that nevertheless, even if a person is only a Beinoni, he should strive in any case to attain this level whereby he despises evil. And what this means basically is that when we look at physicality and we see what it becomes, we see the reality of physicality. It is not the full godliness of what spirituality is. If we take into account the mysteries behind the creation of the physical world, forming ultimately from all the tzimtzumim, from the contractions that resulted at the beginning of creation. Those who wish to learn more, study the Otzrot Chaim, study the Eitz Chaim. We see over there that there is a wonderful light of the Ein Sof. And ultimately, this light has to be contracted, and it is restricted from one level to the next and dimmed down, so that the light that penetrates to where we are is far less in quality than the light which emerged from the highest part of Hashem, from the Ein Sof, from the Or Ein Sof. In other words, this light from the Ein Sof. And therefore, the further down that we go, we must realize the more evil it becomes. The further down we go, the further we are from God himself, which means the more materialistic we are living in, and therefore it is more gross. So therefore, in physical terms, what happens is that things ultimately get to a stage that you can have food, for example, which is very tasty, which is very godly. We eat the food which nourishes us, which allows us to fulfill Hashem's wishes. But nevertheless, what ultimately becomes of the food that we eat? That is different to the concept of what becomes of the Torah that we learn. And therefore, the lower that we go in the physical world, the more gross things become, the more materialistic things become. And the tzaddik despises this level of materialism. He sees within it this grossness, this decay, this rot. Where does it end up ultimately? When a person leaves this world and his soul leaves the physical body, ultimately the body might have fulfilled a tremendous role in his life. But nevertheless, the duty of the body at this point in time is to enter into the ground and to end up decaying into whatever it becomes. But the soul continues on a high mission, and it enters into a much higher level. Almost practically speaking, we could say it forgets the physical body. It might take some time, but ultimately it's going to forget that physical body, because the most important thing is that the physical body was the very source and the means to bring the soul to a higher level. The tzaddik sees the grossness in physicality immediately. The Beinoni doesn't see that grossness. However, the Beinoni still has the opportunity to imitate that tzaddik. and to look at the physicality in a way that he says, you know what, perhaps the physical is not as spiritual, as godly as I make it out to be, even though, of course, everything in physicality is godly as well. Everything in the physical world is godly, but it is of a less revealed level. God is hiding much more in the physical than he is in the spiritual. So therefore, the Baal HaTanya says to us that nevertheless, where we see over here, in order l'kayem es hashavua shemashbi'im tehi tzaddik, in order to fulfill this oath that they swear to him be a tzaddik, Hashem yaseh hatov be'einav. What he should do is he should play his part of the deal and do what he can to imitate, as if he could become the tzaddik, and then ultimately leave Hashem to do what is good in his eyes. Which means even though the Beinoni cannot become a tzaddik, nevertheless, he should still strive to see the physicality for what it is, and ultimately that will train him in the way to understand what it means to be the tzaddik. V'od, and more than this, shehahergel al kol davar shilton, the accustoming himself on everything of what he's going to rule over. In other words, this physicality, he's going to become accustomed now to despising this physical and so on. The truth is that when he starts behaving in that way, it will become second nature to him. Many of us might think, it doesn't sound like a great idea. I'm quite happy to acknowledge the evil or the materialism for what it is and say that God is present there too. Well, that's fine, as long as a person wants to maintain that level of Beinoni. But if a person, after all, is striving to attain the level of tzaddik, he must act in a way as if he were a tzaddik. At least this will be a start, and it will accustom him to understand what it means to act in a way as a tzaddik. And when a person accustoms himself to despise the bad, in fact, all of this will become despised to him in reality. Because we have a principle. The more that a person accustoms himself in a certain direction, the more it becomes natural. For example, if a person has a bad behavioral trait, he's an angry person, and somebody says to him, you know, you need to work on your anger. So he says to himself, but how can I do that? And he tells the person, how am I going to work on my anger when I'm an angry person? So the answer is, work on your anger, meaning behave in a way that you don't allow the anger to come out. And the more that you behave in the way that you don't allow the anger to come out, the more it will become natural that you won't actually experience the anger within yourself. And the same thing applies here too. The more that the Beinoni begins to accustom himself in the ways of a tzaddik, even though it is that he is not really a tzaddik, then when he accustoms himself in that way, in fact, he could still become the tzaddik, so to speak. And when he begins to rejoice in his soul, in Hashem, and he begins to think and to contemplate and to meditate, this person begins, he sits down on his bed, he sits down on a chair, he closes his eyes, and he begins to contemplate on the greatness of Hashem, just as much as the tzaddik would do. Hooray, behold, the is'arute de latata, when he awakens himself below. We have a great principle in the teachings of Sod, of the secrets of Torah, in the Kabbalah. When we awaken ourselves below, itar'uta de la'ela. It causes an awakening from above. I've mentioned this example dozens and dozens of times. The basic principle is we have to cause a stirring from below. We wake something up, and that causes a stirring from above. If we take the water in a river or in the seas, and the sun begins to evaporate, cause the water to evaporate upwards, ultimately the water becomes formed into clouds, and the clouds start to disperse, and when the rain comes down, it gives the ground the nourishment that it needs. When there's an awakening from below, there is an awakening from above. The hulei hai, and all of this, the ulai, And if a person does indeed behave in this way, he begins to sensitize himself to the bad aspects of the evil that he sees in the world. He begins to think like a tzaddik, even though he is not really a tzaddik. Perhaps it would be that ye'era alav ruach mimarom. There will be awoken above him a spirit from above. And I love this teaching of what the Alter Rebbe is about to say. Every now and again, the Alter Rebbe says something that is just so beyond what we were thinking that we are amazed that he was about to say such a statement like this. The person is not really a tzaddik, and yet when he begins to stir up in himself that he feels that he wants to be the tzaddik, that he tries to mimic the tzaddik, that he looks at the world in a way of a tzaddik even though he is not a tzaddik, and he sees the evil of this physicality and he really wants to bring himself to a higher level, perhaps he will merit an aspect of the ruach, meaning of the spirit, from the root of some tzaddik who has already passed on. And the tzaddik will be impregnated into him. The soul of the tzaddik will go into this body of the Beinoni, la'avoid Hashem b'simcha amitis, in order that he will be able to serve Hashem with a real delight, a real happiness, the happiness that we spoke about that the tzaddik serves Hashem with. This Beinoni is indeed going to be able to serve Hashem on the same level. Kidiksiv, as it is written in Tehillim, Tzadi, Zayin, Pasuk Yud Beis, Simchu Tzadikim Bashem. Rejoice, O Tzadikim, O righteous people in Hashem. Look at the words. Simchu Tzadikim, rejoice, righteous ones in Hashem. V'tiskayem bo, and so it will be fulfilled within him be'emes, in truth. Hashavua, this oath that he was sworn, shemashbiim, that they swore to him that he had to swear when he was born into this world, before he came into this world, Tehi tzaddik, you shall be a tzaddik. At this point in time, the Alter Rebbe has just given us the most wonderful insight. First of all, we discussed this theme of the Beinoni and the Rasha for a number of chapters already, and it got quite confusing because the aspect is that the Beinoni is stuck apparently, and he can't reach a higher level. And generally speaking, he has no way to bring himself to the level of tzaddik. And at the end of chapter 14, the Alter Rebbe tells us an insight in the secrets of Torah, that something can happen to a person that can change him from one level to the next in a split second. This is the concept that is known as ibur. Ibur means impregnation. And just as it is that, generally speaking, the world knows about the concept of a dibuk. A dibuk is the concept of an evil spirit that can enter into a person and it can direct him in ways that he doesn't want to go. So too in the world of Kabbalah that we study, there is another aspect of spirit that exists. This is called the ibur. And the ibur is to the good what the dibuk is to bad. Which means to say the ibur is an impregnated soul from a higher level in a higher world that attaches itself to a person and then brings him to much higher levels. For example, he begins to see the whole Torah on a higher level. He begins to understand the Torah on a higher level. He begins to remember the Torah on a higher level. He begins to understand everything that he's reading faster than he could have before. How did it happen? Because the soul of the tzaddik impregnates itself into the body of this person. Which means to say, every person has this opportunity at his fingertips. Anybody who works on elevating himself because he really does want to become a tzaddik, as long as he begins to make what he usually does not so often, now infrequently, he begins to do frequently, the more frequently he begins to do it, the more attached he becomes to the thing that he's doing. And therefore, at that point in time, who knows, says the Alter Rebbe, it could well be that Hashem will cause the soul of a tzaddik from another world, from the higher worlds, to enter into a person's body. And in this way, the verse that says, Simchu tzaddikim b'Hashem, rejoice tzaddikim in Hashem, will be fulfilled. because the tzaddikim are going to work together, which means the tzaddik of the soul will enter into the body of the Beinoni and will uplift him so that he'll begin to serve Hashem as if he actually were a tzaddik. And that is an unbelievable idea. It's probably the biggest chidush that the Alter Rebbe is making for us, that makes such a division in bringing us to realize that even if we feel, or even if we understand the concept that the Beinoni is relatively speaking stuck where he is, in fact, he's not really stuck. If he pushes ahead and he does what he's supposed to, he can turn himself into a person who serves Hashem like a tzaddik, even though, practically speaking, he still is not a tzaddik himself, because that is a different level altogether, as we've just discussed before. And now we come to chapter 15, taking this concept of the Beinoni to a new level. Ubazeh yuvan ma shekasuv. And from this is understood that is written in Malachi Perek Gimel Pasuk Yud Chet, V'shavtem, and you shall return. Ureisim bein tzaddik l'rasha. And you will see the difference between the tzaddik and the rasha. You will see the difference between the righteous man and the evil man. Bein oved Elokim la'asher lo avado. Between the person who serves God and the one who does not serve God. Very interesting verse this. Why did the prophet have to say these two aspects to me? It says, when you return, you will see the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha. What does it mean exactly, a tzaddik and a rasha? I know what the difference is. The tzaddik is a person who serves Hashem, and the rasha, the evil person, certainly doesn't serve Hashem. Therefore, why did the prophet come and say the additional parts, the end parts of this verse? You will see the difference between Bein Oved Elokim, somebody who serves Elokim, La'asher lo abado, to the person who doesn't serve him. The righteous person for sure serves God. The rasha, the evil person, doesn't serve God. Why does the prophet have to indicate with another expression the concept of serving God and not serving God? The Tanya continues. Here is the difference between one who serves God and the tzaddik. What is the difference between a person who serves God and the tzaddik? That a person who is serving, as in the present tense, the Hebrew word to serve, to work, is oved. Hu lashon hoveh. This is the present tense. Oved means to serve. Shehu be'emtza ha'avodah. We learn from this that a person who is serving God is busy with the means, the middle points of serving God. Shehi ha'milchama im ha'yetzer hara. The person who is serving God is the person who is engaged in a war with the evil inclination. And what does he have to do? Lehiskaber alav ulegarsho meha'ir ketana. And the duty of the person who's serving God is to strengthen himself over the Yetzer Hara and to dispel it, to cause it to go into exile, to eliminate it from the small city. Remember, we discussed already before that the Tanya described to us that the body is to be considered as a small city, with the inhabitants to be considered as the limbs of the body, and the kings. There are two kings who are fighting for rulership over the small city, namely the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. Now, when a person is engaged in the service of God, he is serving God. It means to say that he is in the process of eliminating the evil from the small city, from the body. And he wants it to be that the evil inclination will have no power whatsoever to enclose itself into the limbs of the body, the inhabitants of the city. Shehu be'emes avodah v'amal gadol, that this is really a great amount of service and toil. Lihilachem bo tamid, that a person has to war against it constantly. V'hainu ha-Beinoni, and that is the Beinoni. Oh, so already we see over here there is a difference. The reason that the prophet has expressed the words in this verse as he has is in order to teach us something. The prophet is hinting to another category of soul. That is the Beinoni. You're going to see Bein Tzaddik l'Rasha, the difference between a righteous man and an evil man. Bein Oved Elokim, between the one who serves God, and that is not the Tzaddik. That is called the Beinoni. La'asher lo avado, against the person who doesn't serve him. Well, if I say that this verse is speaking about the Beinoni who serves God, then who is the person who doesn't serve God, if indeed he is not the evil person? Aval, but Tzaddik nikra Eved Hashem. The Tzaddik is called a servant of God. B'shem hatoar, using the adjective form. The Tzaddik is called Eved Hashem. He is already a servant of God. He has already mastered how to serve God, and he has become the servant himself. Whereas the Beinoni is currently in the process of serving God, of getting rid of the evil, in order that he will be able to serve God properly as an Eved, as a servant, as a slave, so to speak. But the Tzaddik has already attained that level. Komo Shem Chacham, like the name wise man, or Melech, or king. He is called Eved. He has already attained the status. Shekavar Naaseh Chacham, already he has become a wise person, or Melech, or a king. How did he become a wise person? He studied a lot. While he was studying, he wasn't yet a wise person. He was in the process of accumulating wisdom. When he had finished his course, he became a wise person, having attained all that knowledge. Kach zeh, so too, this is what takes place. Kavar avad v'gamar legamre. Already he has served and he is finished completely avodas hamilchama, the service of war, im hara, with the bad. The tzaddik has already accomplished the goal of eliminating all evil in thought, speech, action. From his very soul, there is not an iota of evil that sits within him, causing him to stumble. But the Beinoni still has the evil inside him, just that he works on himself, that he doesn't allow the evil to manifest itself. Ad ki, until such a degree, the tzaddik is vayegarishehu vayelech lo. He has already dispelled it, and it has left him. V'libo halal b'kibor, and his heart is completely vacated, open within inside him. When it comes to the tzaddik, when we look at his heart, we see that there is an empty space where the evil should have been, or alternatively, if there is no empty space because he has uplifted himself to an even higher level, then that part of the heart that was once empty, which had one stage had this evil in it, and then it became empty, actually becomes complete goodness. And within his heart, there is not a space for evil because it is completely composed of the good. Beinoni, but with regards to the Beinoni, the medium person, the middleman, the average person, the person who strives to serve Hashem, that he's going to be like a tzaddik, but he doesn't quite get there. Yesh gam kein shtei madregot. Now with this fellow, the Beinoni, there are also two levels. Oved Elokim, there is a level of serving God, a Beinoni who serves God, v'asher lo avado, and the one who doesn't serve him. And that is exactly what the prophet teaches us. There is a difference between the tzaddik and the rasha, and then there is another category of person, Beinoni. And within the average person, there are two types of Beinonim. There is the one who is Bein Oved Elokim, the difference between the person who serves God, La'asher lo avado, and the Beinoni who does not serve God. What does that mean exactly? A Beinoni who serves God and a Beinoni who doesn't serve God? What exactly is the difference? Oved Elokim v'asher lo avado v'af al pi kain, and even so, that there are two categories of Beinonim, one who serves God and one who doesn't serve God. Eino rasha. The Beinoni is not a rasha. The Rasha is a person who is involved in evil activities in thought, speech, and action. But the Beinoni, he never commits an Aveira in thought, speech, and action. But what is his difficulty? He could be of the category of person who doesn't serve God. Meaning to say, he's a Beinoni, but he doesn't serve God. He's not evil, but he's not serving God. The point of love is to be involved in the service of God. And let's say a person is a Beinoni, but he doesn't serve God. Well, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to serve God in this world. I must activate my strengths and powers and put them to good use to serve God. I cannot just be on a neutral level. I cannot just be in what's called a comfort zone. Rather, I need to serve God. Kilo avar miyamav shum avera kala. The Alter Rebbe teaches us that this Beinoni who doesn't serve God, he'd never transgressed ever in his days any Aveira, even a light Aveira, even a very simple Aveira. He never committed an Aveira in his life. V'gam kiyam kol hamitzvahs, and he also fulfilled all the mitzvahs. He does fulfill all the mitzvahs, and he did fulfill all the mitzvahs. She'efshar lo l'kaimam, that it's possible for him to fulfill. The Talmud Torah keneged kulam, and the study of Torah outweighs all of them, which means that the Beinoni is a person that has fulfilled all the mitzvahs of the Torah, and he is in fact involved in the study of Torah all the time. V'lo pasik pumei migirsa, and his mouth never stops uttering words of Torah, as we learned before in the previous chapter. And that's why Rabbah was confused, so to speak, and he called himself a Beinoni, because as far as he was concerned, the things that he did were the very same things that the Beinoni does. And therefore he said to himself, perhaps I'm only a Beinoni. What is the proof that I'm a Tzaddik? I sit and study Torah all day. Well, the Beinoni sits and studies Torah all day. But then how can the Beinoni be a person who doesn't serve God? If he fulfills all the mitzvahs and he studies Torah all day, seems to me like he's serving God. Ela, but rather, she'eino oseh shum milchama im hayetzer. But this Beinoni, who doesn't serve God, he never involves himself with any war against his inclination, which means to say we have a problem. The problem is over here that the Beinoni is stuck in a situation that he is neutrally a decent person, and he never feels that he has to fight against a Yetzer within him. L'natzcho al yedei or Hashem, to win the war, to be victorious against this Yetzer by means of the light of Hashem, hameir al nefesh ha'elokis, which illuminates on the godly soul, shebamuach, which is in the mind, hashalit, which rules al halev, upon the heart, el, as you mentioned above. So you see over here an interesting idea. This Beinoni is kind of parav. He's at a comfort zone within himself that wherever he is, he has no need to fight against the Yetzer. But we said before that the whole idea of this Beinoni is sometimes a bad thought enters his mind and he has to push it aside. He's got to put in effort. He's got to work on it. Seems to be he's got a war. But this Beinoni that we talking about, that he does not serve God, it is because he has no need to serve God, because he is at a level already whereby on a parav level, he doesn't commit any aveiros. And the reason is because his inclination does not stand against him at all. To nullify himself away from his Torah, to take him away from his Torah study and his service. And this Beinoni doesn't need to fight against this Yetzer Hara at all. Doesn't have to fight against him. Kagon, for example, shehu matmid bilimodo, like a person who is naturally accustomed to being diligent in his studies. There are some people that can't tear themselves away from their studies, not because they're fighting a war and so therefore they put the effort in to study, but because they love the study so much they feel they just get carried away with it and they want to carry on studying. So this particular fellow, this Beinoni who we're speaking about, he's a masmid. He's diligent, constant in his studies, b'tivo, in his nature. That's what he wants to do. He just wants to study all the time. Well, that doesn't make a difference to the greatness of a person because he wants to study. What makes him great is because he didn't feel like studying and he studied in any case. That's what makes him great. Mitoldato, since already he was born, he was accustomed to desiring study. Al yadei tigbores hamara shechora, because already he strengthened himself over this depression, this black bile, as it's called, the depression that exists in people many times that prevents them from studying, that holds them back from studying. A person feels drained, they feel depressed, they say, I don't have the energy to study. But this particular individual was born naturally to not have this nature of this depression that will hold him back so that he won't desire to study. He wants to study all the time. That's his desire. V'chein, and likewise, ein lo milchama mita'avas nashim. This particular Beinoni that we're speaking about, who does not serve God, he does not have a war for the desire of women. Why? Because he's cold-natured. In his very fiber of his being, he's not a hot person. He's not a person who's so stimulated. When he sees an attractive woman, he becomes all excited, and he's got a yetzer to deal with. How's he going to deal with it? This particular fellow has no desire for women. He's not excited in any way. He sees a pretty woman walk past, doesn't do a thing to him. Why? Because sometimes a person is born like that. In his very nature, he doesn't feel this heat and this passion towards the opposite sex. V'chein, and likewise, b'shar ta'anugei olam hazeh, with regards to other tasty things in this world. Hu machusar hergesh, he lacks feeling, hana'ah, of the benefit, b'tivo, in his nature. He doesn't desire it. I once went to have my teeth done by the shinanit, the person responsible for cleaning teeth. And when she did my teeth for me, she asked, what type of things do I eat in general? And I explained to her, I like chocolate. She says, well, what do you like chocolate for? She says, how often do you eat chocolate? I said, I have chocolate during the day. I like eating chocolate. She said to me, she doesn't eat chocolate at all. She doesn't enjoy it. She has no desire for it. This is the nature of people. One person has a desire towards the chocolate. Another person says, do I have to fight a war about eating chocolate? I have no war to fight because I have no desire for it. This is the Beinoni who doesn't serve God. Why doesn't he serve God? Because by his very nature, he is accustomed to a world that says, I'm okay studying Torah. I'm okay fulfilling mitzvot. I'm okay turning away from bad. I have no desire for any of these things. By nature, he's cold in everything, in all his activities towards God. And for this reason, he's a Beinoni who does not serve God. We're going to learn later about the Beinoni who does serve God, but we've reached the end of our session at this point in time. So I thank you very much for joining me. I'm Eliyahu Shear from Chesed Ve'emet. My site again, www.lovingkindness.co. Please, if you've enjoyed this video, please like my video, subscribe to my channel, and click on the bell button to be notified of future shiurim. Please make a positive comment below. I'd be delighted to hear what you feel about the shiur. And of course, if you want to be in touch with me, just check out my website as I've given to you before. Send me an email. I'd be delighted to be in touch with you to speak about all areas of life, of growth, things that are closest to my heart. If you can, please come through and support us and assist us in our activities that we're involved in and become a partner in these activities. After all these videos that you see are only due to the thanks of people who help us along the way and allow us to obtain the material and the equipment and all the things that we need in order to produce these videos. So thanks for joining me. Looking forward to another shiur. Wishing you all the best. Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye.